Welcome to The Archive Speaks, a podcast by the Refugee Archive. In this series, we document the journeys of displaced women who lead households, rebuild communities, and carry stories that often go unheard. These oral histories reflect the personal memories and truths of those who tell them, shaped by time, trauma, and resilience. The Refugee Archive holds space for these voices without political alignment or editorial interference. This episode opens the first chapter of Sakena's recorded story. Sakena is a Rohingya female head of household, or a single mother, whose story begins in Gudusara village in Arakan State, Myanmar. In 1982, Myanmar passed a citizenship law that excluded the Rohingya, a Muslim ethnic minority, from the list of official ethnic groups, effectively making them stateless. Today, more than 1 million Rohingya live in exile, most in the vast refugee camps of Cox's Bazar, the largest in the world. In this episode, Sakena begins her story in the soft rhythm of her father's prayers, the scent of rice and turmeric in her mother's kitchen, and the warmth of a home she never thought she'd have to leave.
My name is Sakena. I grew up in Gudusara village in Mount Township, Arakan State. It was a beautiful place. There were wide paddy fields, still lakes, a football field where children played, a mosque whose call to prayer echoed through the air, and a market where people came together to buy and talk and share their lives. Nearby was Downtaki village, and there, under a big banyan tree, people of all ages gathered. They rested under its shade, enjoyed the fresh air, played and shared stories. When you arrive there, the first thing you see is the market, alive with sound and color. In the mornings, I fetched water with my mother. We carried the water in metal pots balanced carefully on our heads. I helped care for the animals. After the dawn prayer, my father recited the Quran and we all listened. His voice was calm and steady. At noon, my mother cooked, and I stood beside her, helping however I could. In the afternoons, I played with my sisters. We played hide and seek, tag, and kicking ball. We sang simple songs as we ran through the yard. At night, my mother said evening prayers. My father told us stories about the prophets and their companions. His voice always softened at the end of each story. When the stories were over, I lay down beside my mother and fell asleep to the sound of the night outside. The hum of insects, the faint barking of dogs, and the rhythm of her breathing beside me. As a child, I lived with my father, my mother, my grandfather and grandmother, and 9 siblings, 4 brothers and 5 sisters. The house was always alive with sound. Relatives came often, uncles, aunts, cousins. Our home was a place where people came and went, bringing laughter, advice, news, and sometimes songs. I loved dal bhat, lentils and rice. I loved mas bhaji, fried fish and food cooked with onion and oil. My mother cooked using the village spices, chili, turmeric, and coriander powder. I can still remember that smell. It was the smell of home. We practiced Islam at home. Every day we prayed. Every day we read the Quran. On Fridays, the men went to the mosque for prayer. On Eid and during Ramadan, our home filled with light, with movement, with joy. I loved hide and seek and running games most of all. I used to sing with my sisters a little rhyme. In the rice field I hide, my sister comes to find. I still remember that song. the call to prayer, the cool touch of the wind, the sound of cowbells in the distance, all of these reminded me, this is my home. At night, when my father told stories, those sounds and smells gathered around us. The oil lamp burned softly. The air carried the scent of cooked rice and turmeric. I felt peace. At home, we spoke Rohingya. With my father, my mother, and my grandmother, we spoke only in our language. It was the language of care, of home. The words carried warmth, like the touch of a mother's hand. In school, we were required to speak Burmese. With neighbors, we mixed the two, switching easily. One word in Rohingya, the next in Burmese. The sounds of both languages floated through our village, the words shifting as easily as breath. My mother was my first teacher. She taught me to respect elders, to keep things clean, to say my prayers without delay. She would say, "Clean hands, clean heart." My father taught me something that stayed in my heart. He said, "Life will have hardship, but keep patience and trust in Allah." His voice was strong but gentle, like a guide in the dark. I still remember those words. They live in my heart even now.
From the sounds of prayer and play, Sakena brings us closer to the world inside her home, a place shaped by hands and routine. Wooden walls, tin roof, a garden full of flowers. Her mother's tenderness, her father's humor, her grandparents' teachings on faith and composure. It was a life centered around women's work and the quiet dignity of daily care. Work that, in her words, made everything feel whole.
Our house was simple. The walls were of wood and the roof was of tin. Inside there were only 2 rooms, one for sleeping and one for cooking. It was small, but it was full of life. In front of the house was a small garden full of trees and flowers. When they bloom, the colors filled our days. Beyond the garden were the rice fields stretching into the distance. Close by, almost at our doorstep, stood the mosque. We kept animals, small cows, some goats, and a few dogs. My father and brothers cared for them. That too was part of our life. My mother showed me great affection. Every morning she said, "Child, did you eat?" And before sleep she stroked my hair. My father brought fruits and sweets from the market. When I saw him return, my heart felt full and peaceful. One day my father joked, "Look, even your mother's vegetables turned into fireworks." My mother laughed, and we all laughed together. My father loved to make us smile. My grandfather loved singing and told old stories about the kings of Rohingya lands and how faith reached our people. My grandmother taught me how women should keep cleanliness and a calm heart. Her tone steady but filled with warmth. I had 5 sisters and 4 brothers. My eldest brother took me to school. My sisters washed clothes and helped our mother. I was always with my second sister. She was my companion in every joy and every day's work. Every day we dressed simply. The boys wore lungi and Punjabi. My sisters wore sari or salwar kameez. But on special days, on Eid or at weddings, we dressed new. My mother and sisters wore bright saris, colors shining like flowers. We boys put on fresh lungi and Punjabi. That was a joy in itself, to wear something new, to look clean and proud.
Her story then opens to laughter. She recalls the games, the songs under the moonlight, the smell of sweet milk and cardamom on Eid mornings. This part of her life feels untouched by fear, where faith meant joy, and childhood was held safely in the arms of family and community.
As a little girl, my greatest happiness was playing with my sisters and my friends. We played in the yard, in the garden, and in the fields. I loved to see flowers, red, yellow, white. But my heart's color was blue, always blue. Blue like the sea, blue like the endless sky. We played many games, hopscotch, hide and seek, running and shouting until our voices grew hoarse. On Eid nights and on evenings when the moon shone bright, we gathered to sing songs together. We laughed so much in those days. My childhood was filled with laughter. Eid mornings were the most beautiful days of my life. Early in the morning, my father went to the mosque for prayer. My mother sprinkled water outside the house, and the children wore new clothes. I shared happiness with my sisters and ate my mother's semai. Sweet milk and the scent of cardamom filled the air. In the evening, we greeted everyone saying, Eid Mubarak. My favorite surah was Yasin. My father recited it in the evening and said, when you read this surah, peace enters the heart. I learned it and recited it aloud. When I remembered that surah, my sorrow would disappear. During weddings in my village, everyone joined in, singing, beating the duff drum, and sharing joyful stories. My mother cooked for all, chitoy pita, tel pita, and sweets with coconut milk. My father said, sharing joy is a kind of worship. I still remember those words. With my father and mother beside me, I always felt safe and strong, like nothing in the world could harm me. My father used to say, Allah tests us, but Allah is merciful. Those words gave me strength. In times of hardship, I recited a prayer. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir. My Lord, make things easy and not difficult. That prayer took away my fear.
Like her mother, who taught by example, Sakena found joy in learning. She remembers the walk to school, the strangeness of holding a pencil, the feeling of a new world opening through words. Her father believed knowledge is light, and for a while that light filled her life, but it dimmed too soon. In a world where girls' education was fragile, her time for study was cut short, replaced by household work and the expectations placed on women. She became patient, she says, but the longing for learning never left.
I went to school. The school was outside the village, about an hour's walk away. I still remember my first day at school. Holding a pencil in my hand felt strange. The teacher said, "Dhono, this is Alif." Alif is the first letter of the Arabic alphabet. My eyes filled with tears. It felt like a door to heaven had opened. And I loved the smell of books so much. I enjoyed studying writing and mathematics the most. We also learned to read the Quran and Islamic knowledge. In my village, there were few opportunities for girls to study. Most girls could not attend school. But my father sent me because he wanted me to gain knowledge. He said, "Knowledge is light. My daughter must have that light." After school, I used to teach my younger sisters. Alif, Ba, Ta, the first letters of the Arabic script. Children from the neighborhood sat outside our house and I taught them letters from the book, while my mother watched and said, "You will gain blessing by teaching." Alongside school, I also worked at home and in the fields. My duties included helping with cooking, looking after the goats, and helping in the fields. I worked with my mother, harvesting rice, dividing the grain, and picking vegetables. She taught me how to cook rice and fish, and how to make pitha, sweet cakes made from rice flour and coconut. After winter passed, my mother would say, "Learn the work of women's hands. It is pride." I only studied up to the 5th grade, and after that I could no longer attend school. I wanted to become a women's teacher. My mother said, "You are bright. Use learning to make others' lives beautiful." But the time for study was taken by women's work, and I became patient in my heart. Now I feel that if I had studied more, I would have taught children differently. But still, I am grateful for what I learned and for what I could give. As I grew older, my mother and elder sisters taught me the duties of a woman. How to care for a household, how to cook well, how to keep the house clean, how to show respect to elders. Our village had customs, women's circles, Quran recitations, lessons on modesty and dignity. These things shaped me. Marriage was never in my hands. It was my parents who chose. At about 16 years old, I got married.
Before Sakena ever crossed a border, marriage had already defined the lives of many Rohingya girls. Research published in the journal Conflict and Health explains that child marriage was a strong cultural practice among the Rohingya, shaped by social and religious ideas about when a girl was considered ready. In Myanmar, state law technically forbade marriage before 18, but for the Rohingya, stateless, unrecognized, and living outside most state protections, those laws were rarely enforced. Many families, facing poverty and uncertainty, still married their daughters young. Sakena was one of them. At just 16, in her village of Gudusara, her parents arranged her marriage.
At the wedding, the dowry was given: money, gold ornaments, clothes. This was our custom, a mark of honor. Before the marriage, I had not seen my husband, except once, from behind a curtain, a distant glimpse. On the wedding day, the Imam recited the nikah. There were prayers, there was gathering. My mother, my sisters, the neighbors dressed me with gold, with clothes shining. Food was cooked in great pots. People ate, people were happy. After marriage, I went to my husband's home. There I lived with his parents, with his brothers. Life changed. Now my duties were heavy. Each day I rose before the dawn prayer. I fetched water, I cooked, I cared for the goats. This was my duty: cooking, cleaning, tending the animals, sharing work with my sisters-in-law. My husband's duty was outside: farming, market, carrying goods. But in the evenings, we made decisions together about money, about children, about the fields, about religion. I was happy when he walked beside me or when we sent our children to school. He was a good man. He helped also in cleaning, in the garden, in the fields. My husband used to say, "You are patient and strong." His calm heart taught me not to give up easily. I loved his kindness and faith most. I'm blessed with 4 children, 2 sons, 2 daughters. Their names we chose from the Quran, from the words of Islam. When a woman was pregnant in our village, prayers were made, Quran was recited. At the birth, the call to prayer was whispered in the baby's ear, sweets were shared, gifts were given. At birth, my mother, my aunts, the village women helped me. My father and the husband prayed. When my babies slept, I sang them lullabies, whispered dua. My mother told me, hold your child with prayer, begin every act with Bismillah. When my husband was home, he played with the children, took them to the market. We raised them together, side by side. Life was full of work. The house, the animals, the fields, the children. But it was good work. We lived.
Massive humanitarian crisis in Asia, sparked by what the UN has described as being a textbook example of ethnic cleansing.
Then came the day of fear. News spread that soldiers were coming. We knew danger was near. That night, I still remember. The sky was dark, and the sound of gunfire echoed through the air. My husband said, don't delay. We have to leave now. I tied the bags, woke the little children, and 2 clothes and 1 bottle of water. I looked around the room, my eyes filling with tears. I placed a small Quran in my hand and whispered, hold this. These are Allah's words. Then I took my children's hands and said softly, come. In my hands, I carried a small Quran, 1 bottle of water, and 2 sets of clothes. With my other hand, I held my children tightly, and in a small bag, I carried what little food we had. My husband's photograph was left inside the house. I told myself, leave it in Allah's hands. Saving life comes first. That night, gunshots cracked the air and fear spread everywhere. Soldiers entered our place. They beat some and killed others. We knew then it was time to run. We had no time. We carried only what we could, some clothes, a little food, the rest we left behind. We walked on foot. Some went by boat, others by vehicle. My husband's last words to me were quiet. He said, take care of the children. I'll come. His eyes were wet, and those eyes are still in my heart. I prayed, may Allah protect him. But after that, we never heard from him again. The children were afraid. The youngest asked, Amma, where are we going? And another asked, where is father? My eyes filled with tears, but I calmed them with prayers. On the road, my husband turned to me and said, you go ahead with the children. I will follow. Those were his last words to me. I never saw him again. I do not know what happened, but others told me he was taken, killed. His last words were on that road. After that, nothing. I stayed with relatives for a while, but fear was everywhere. They gave us food, gave us shelter, but not for long because everyone was in danger. Then I knew I must walk on, with only my children. To find food, to find a place, that was my burden. The children wept. Amma, where is our father? I held them close. I prayed, and I gave them strength. The weight was heavy. My husband was gone. My children were in my hands alone. But I carried them. I carried us all. When my children feel hungry or sad, I tell them about Allah. I say, Allah is merciful. Allah sees us. My eyes fill with tears, but I keep a smile on my face. I recite prayers like songs, and the children love to listen. I lost my house, my people, my country, but I saved my children. By Allah's mercy, I am still alive, and that is my pride. At night, when all is silent, I close my eyes and feel, Allah, you are the owner of my strength. I tell my children, our land is beautiful. There are rivers, forests, mosques. I want them to remember that our homeland is like a mother. Even through sorrow, she keeps giving life. I would say, listen to me. I am a mother. I am a person.
At this point in her record, Sakena's memory shifts from home to exile. She's brought us from her childhood home in Gudusara to the night everything changed, when fear took over, and survival became her only path forward. In the next chapter, Sakena speaks about the night her family fled northern Rakhine. She shares her journey of loss and the unyielding will that carried her and her 4 children toward a fragile new beginning in Cox's Bazar. You've been listening to The Archive Speaks, a podcast from the Refugee Archive, a global center dedicated to preserving and amplifying the voices of displaced female head of households. If this story moved you, help us share it. Support our cause by finding us on any social media platform at The Refugee Archive. And join us, because when more of us listen, more of them speak.